Hey yogis, welcome to Module 4. Let's get started right into the Yoga Sutras 1.33 and 2.46. So these Yoga Sutras are part of maybe what folks would say, I hate to say the most important, but maybe often the most referenced. That's probably a good way to think about it. They're highly referenced in the yoga practice. So Sutra 1.33, this one my Sanskrit with this isn't amazing because I don't recite this one super often, but I think we can muscle our way through it. Let me just slide this little image of myself down so I can see. So Sutra 1.33 says, Maitri Karuna Mudito Pekshanam Sukha Dukkha Punya Punya Vishayam Bhavantas Chitta Prasadanam. And this translates to by cultivating attitudes of friendliness toward the happy, compassion for the unhappy, delight in the virtuous, and disregard toward the wicked, the mind stuff retains its undisturbed calmness. So with that in mind, if we think back to some of the sutras that we read or our conversations that we had in Costa Rica, the goal is to control the mind stuff, right? That's what we want to do, to be able to control our thoughts so that they serve us and others most optimally. And we interact with a lot of different people throughout our lives on a daily basis. And so with that in mind, Patanjali is saying that we have to account for the ways in which we interact with people, maybe that fall in different categories is a good way to think about it. So rather than being jealous of happy people, we should be friendly toward them, right? We've all experienced that. Like someone achieves something and we're really, we're happy for them, but maybe a little bit jealous. Patanjali would say this is an opportunity to just feel pure happiness for that person. That can be very difficult if you're maybe not in a great place. Like, I don't know if you've ever been like, after a breakup, you're like, oh my God, everyone is in this like happy relationship except for me, right? That's when Patanjali says you should be happy for those people, right? It's not about you, it's about them. So be happy for those people. Be compassionate for the unhappy, right? Rather than being mad at them for being unhappy or feeling frustrated with them for being unhappy or not caring about them, just in general, we should have compassion for the unhappy. Have delight in the virtuous and disregard toward the wicked. So those who are virtuous, love them, right? Don't think like, oh God, they just think they're so much better than everyone else, right? Love those who are virtuous and see them as a way that you could live your life. And then disregard toward the wicked. And I think this one might be the hardest to, at least for me, to practice. It's very hard to feel nothing towards people who have done bad things. But Patanjali says we shouldn't necessarily just say, oh, it's okay. It's totally okay that you committed this terrible crime, right? We're not necessarily supposed to pat them on the back, but we shouldn't hate them either. We should just disregard them. Try to feel maybe nothing for them. Pardon me. So I'm just looking at a little bit of information here online. I'll read to you. So I'm sorry if I'm kind of looking all over the screen here. It says, in his commentary on Patanjali's ancient yoga scriptures, Sri Swami Satchidananda says, pardon me, remember our goal is to keep the serenity of our minds. Whether interested in yoga or not, he says, this tool will help anyone maintain peacefulness through anything. Keep this sutra with you as you move through your days. Patanjali says there are only 4 kinds of lakhs in the world. Sukha, happy people, dukkha, unhappy people, punya, the virtuous, and apunya, the wicked. At any given moment, you can fit any person into these 4 categories, including yourself. And this is really important. So there's 4 lakhs or 4 categories of people. You have, I'll do this one more time. Sukha, happy, dukkha, unhappy, punya, virtuous, and apunya, wicked. And so anyone at any time can fit into any of these categories. And this is really important to remember because the yoga teaching suggests that even if we are living as virtuous beings in this moment, we have the capacity and the ability to be wicked people. We make conscious choices not to. Sidebar. If you haven't listened to the podcast, My Favorite Murder yet, you probably should. And because I think that the reason why it's a true crime podcast and it's very, very popular right now. And I think the reason why it's popular in this new true crime genre is increasing in popularity because we can sort of understand a fraction, depending on the crime we're talking about, how some of these people, these wicked people feel, right? Because according to the teachings of yoga, we have that in us. We just make choices to not do that because we are living in a state of clarity and a state of serenity according to the teachings of yoga. So moving on, when you see a happy person, use the friendliness key. This means being able to share in another person's happiness or good fortune instead of being jealous or trying to destroy their joy through a bitter attitude or negative verbal comments. Through jealousy, you will not disturb the happy person and you don't disturb your own serenity, right? So you both can find a greater sense of happiness. When you see an unhappy person, use the compassion key. And they're calling them keys because if you remember, the category is referred to as locks, right? So if someone's happy, here's the key to that lock. And if someone's unhappy, here's the key to that lock. So when you see an unhappy person, use the compassion key. When someone is upset, try to help them or comfort them if you can. If they need space, then leave them alone after letting them know you will be there for them when they are ready. Don't take pleasure in seeing someone else suffer, but remember how it felt when it happened to you and have compassion for them. I think at some point in our course, whether it was in Costa Rica or one of these videos, I mentioned the mantra Loka Samasta Sukhi no Bhavantu, which kind of a long translation of that is, may all beings everywhere be happy and free, and may the thoughts, words, and actions of my own life contribute in some way to that happiness and to that freedom for all. And really what this means is, may the actions of my life reduce suffering. And so when you come across a person who is suffering, you use the compassion key to your thoughts, your words, and your actions. And this is something that you could even use for yourself, right? We fall into these categories too. So when you are feeling happy, don't feel guilty for being happy. And when you are feeling sad, be compassionate for yourself. When you see a virtuous person, use the delight key. I love that. If you see a virtuous person, feel delighted for them. Do not envy the person, but rather appreciate the virtuous qualities and try to cultivate them in your own life. As we rejoice and appreciate their qualities, we are inspired by knowing such greatness is possible. Observing notable qualities in others is a virtue of the heart. So when you see someone who is virtuous, who's doing good in the world, rather than be like, oh my God, they're just doing it for attention. They don't actually mean it. When they go home, they're like serial killers. I'm listening to this serial killer podcast. That's where this is coming from, right? But so when you see someone who is truly virtuous, delight in it and see what you can learn for them. And if you are feeling particularly elevated one day, delight in that and offer that to other people, not in a proselytizing way, but just by being a good person, right? That's the key to that lock for yourself. And then lastly, when you see a wicked, non-virtuous person, use the disregard key. I think it's important to remember that wicked doesn't mean just like terrible, right? We just mean someone who's not always being virtuous. So here it says we need to develop equanimity, balance, towards those whose actions oppose our values. We need to develop equanimity towards We need to develop equanimity towards those whose actions oppose our values. It would be wonderful if all people always acted with honor and consciousness, but unfortunately, this is not always the way. We ourselves may have acted, spoken, or thought unkindly or hurt another person. So become indifferent to the person who is wicked at the moment. So rather than hating them, just become indifferent, right? Find that equanimity. So here, let me look up the... Equanimity is that mental calmness, composure, evenness of temper, especially in a difficult situation. So it's that balance of the mind, right? It's not flying off the handle at someone who's done you wrong. It's, I'm on the even road. I'm not happy about this. I'm also not angry. I'm riding the even road. And again, not to say you can't experience those human feelings, because you can and you will, because you are a human, but it's knowing how to bring yourself back to that place of equanimity. So I really like this one because it teaches us how to work with other people, because we've been talking a lot about how we interact with other people through the yamas. But this is also another way that we can think about that. I mean, these are different from the yamas. I don't want to say they're necessarily 100% parallel. Hopefully, if you're practicing the yamas, you're falling right into using these keys. However, it's a nice way for us to think about how do we work with people who are happy, who are unhappy, who are virtuous, and who are wicked, because we will meet those people in our lives. Okay, moving on to Sutra 2.46. So this is one of my favorites, Sthira Sukham Asanam. So asana we often say means pose, but what it actually means is connection to the earth. So this sutra means the connection to the earth must be steady and joyous. So if we think about it in the yoga practice, when we do a yoga posture, a physical yoga posture, it should be both effortful and easeful. So I think about like Warrior Two, for example. When you are in Warrior Two and you have your stance wide and that front knee is bent and you're engaging your legs and you're pushing into your feet, right? We talk so much about this, pushing into your feet, pulling inner thighs together. The stronger your legs become, the steadier you are with gravity. And by that, I mean the lower you are, the lighter the upper body becomes. It sounds a little counterintuitive, but the steadier the legs, the lighter the upper body, right? Same thing, handstand. The steadier your hands are, if you're pushing down into your hands and you have your bones and joints stacked, right? And you're really working through those muscles, suddenly the lighter the feet and legs feel when you're in your handstand. So in the physical yoga practice, what it's suggesting is where the body connects to the earth physically, root that and be steady so the rest of the body can be light. But also this can translate into our regular lives because we have to have a balance of effort and ease. If we are all effort, things will fall apart. We will burn ourselves out. It's like the fire that just burns and burns and burns until there's nothing left. And if we're all ease, we get nothing done. And so it's this balance of effort and ease in our lives. And I actually don't have my copies of the copy of the sutras with me right now, but I do know the story that is in Sutra 2.46, which hopefully you have read by the time you've watched this video. And Sri Swami Satchidananda talks about this big giant tree, I think it's an oak tree, and then a little weed. And the oak tree is all like, yo, little weed, you don't have anything on me. Like, you're puny. What are you going to do about anything? I'm a big giant tree. I'm super strong. But then this big storm comes in and the water comes rushing down through this river and it just knocks the tree out because it's so rigid that when the water comes, it just boop, cracks. But the little weed, or maybe it's a sapling, I can't remember. It doesn't really matter. It's just like a little guy. The little weed, he ebbs and flows, right? And he's rooted, but he's also moving. And so the water rushes in, rolls right over him. He kind of falls over, water leaves, and he comes right back up. And the oak tree's like, damn, bro, I should have been more like you. I don't think Sri Swami Satchidananda exactly tells it like that, but I think that's a pretty good rendition of it. But anyway, so the point is we have to be rooted and stable, but also willing to ebb and flow and move with ease. And this is very difficult, I think, especially in our culture where we are very busy and there's a lot of demand and things cost a lot of money. We work, right? And this asks us to take a little time for self-care. It also asks us to find that ease in the efforts that we're doing in the moment. If you're writing a paper, write. Do what needs to be done. If you have to pull an all-nighter to get your paper done, that's cool. Breathe, right? Eat something healthy. Drink a little water. Find ways to practice ease in the moments of high effort. And when it's possible, take a break from something. Let go of that effort and find a little more ease in your life. And if you're feeling really easeful and you're like, I don't feel like doing anything, I am not studying for that test today, that's when it's time to find a little more effort and get the job done, right? It's a balance. So where the body connects with the earth, it's stable, and the rest of the body finds ease. And in our lives, we root into the experience and we're stable and we're connected to it, but we also bring ease into it. So I hope that gives you a little clarity about Sutra 133 and 246. If you have questions, let me know. Otherwise, I hope to hear from you soon. Have a great day. Bye.